You telling me they're charging $1,000 for a Chromebook? Oh my god, it feels so good. Hello Internet, it's me Zenworm, and today I'm bringing you my review of the Google Pixelbook. I wanted to do a really extensive long-term review of the Pixelbook, but this is actually a replacement for my first one that I had to send back because of trackpad issues. We'll get to that in a minute. And I might also be sending this one back. I only have a few more days left with it, so gotta make this quick. Let's start with Chrome OS. No, it's not gonna run Photoshop. No, it's not gonna do intense video editing, but as long as you understand its limitations, I actually really enjoyed a fresh perspective on what an operating system can be. The sort of minimalist beauty of the Chrome browser at the core, and really only what's necessary built up around it. I'll go ahead and say this, Chrome OS is now my go-to recommendation for someone who needs a computer for light, everyday tasks, hands down. All right, let's talk about performance. So I've been pretty impressed with how much you can throw at this thing, and I just have the Intel Core i5 version with the 8 gigs of RAM. I mean, I've had a 4K video playing on YouTube, I was using Slack for work, tons of tabs open. This thing didn't miss a beat. Now imagine if you were a developer who wanted to run Linux on this thing, you'd be pretty happy. The last thing I like is overall build quality. Even that's a little bit of a mixed bag. On one hand, it feels solid. It doesn't feel cheap at all. The hinge is nice and tight. It doesn't feel like a struggle when you're trying to put it into tablet mode. And the keyboard is really, really good. I have the latest MacBook Pro with the touch bar, and I can't stress enough how much I dislike the newer MacBook keyboard switches. The Pixelbook by comparison feels, well, it feels like an actual keyboard instead of a finger torture rack. The one thing maybe keeping it from being perfect is the really tiny arrow keys, but otherwise it's pretty great. So that mixed bag, let's talk about some of the stuff that I don't like so much. The trackpad sucks. There, I said it. Crazy thing about it is how many people out there are praising this trackpad. What? Now on both Pixelbooks I've had, the trackpad is nearly unresponsive on the far left and right edges. It's even worse if your finger is kind of flat on the surface of the trackpad, and someone actually tried to convince me that that's normal because of palm rejection. Palm rejection, really? Listen, I've used lots of different laptop trackpads, and even the worst of the bunch worked when you put a finger flat on it. So if that is by design on the Pixelbook, then that's just really bad design, no way around it. But I was able to actually fix most of the trackpad issues, the worst, like unresponsive tracking issues, by upgrading to the development channel of Chrome OS, which means that someone on the team realizes there's a problem and they have a fix in the pipeline, but it just shouldn't be so terrible out of the box as a default experience. And even on the development channel, the trackpad is still twitchy and uneven. Look, I'm not expecting MacBook level accuracy here, but I spent time with the recent versions of the Dell XPS, the HP Spectre, Lenovo ThinkPad, all of which have far better tracking. And if that's not enough, if I rest my hand next to the trackpad, two-finger scrolling just sometimes doesn't work. I mean, maybe I got really unlucky with two back-to-back Pixelbooks that had these sorts of issues. I don't know. Okay, one last thing on the trackpad, just so I can get it all out there. I don't know if it's the size or the position that I find uncomfortable, but it goes almost all the way to the front edge, so you have to rest your palm off of the laptop to use it. And it's also not as big as like the MacBook Pro trackpad, so you can't get your wrist on it. So I just don't find the implementation very ergonomic. All right, moving on past the trackpad, another downside for me is actually Chrome OS. Now I know that I said that I like Chrome OS, and I do for what it is, but if you are any sort of a power user, you're very quickly gonna run up against limitations. The mix of Chrome and Android apps is just a little clunky. Many Android apps just don't feel at home when you're in tablet mode, probably because they were designed for a much smaller screen. And trying to use some of those apps in regular laptop mode, well, just forget about it. The last thing I'll say on the negative side is the price, and that's ultimately why I think I'm gonna send this back. I mean, look, you can get the Samsung Chromebook Pro for like 400 bucks less than the Pixelbook at the time of doing this video. And if you're just checking email, browsing the web, watching YouTube videos, using Google Docs, I just don't see the $400 difference, and I don't think many of you will either. Now, it might sound like I'm being really harsh on the Pixelbook, but I do applaud Google for getting in the hardware market. I'm really excited that they're trying, and while efforts like the Pixelbook and even the Pixel 2 phone aren't perfect, it's a good starting point, and I really can't wait to see what they're gonna do in the next few years. Hey YouTube, I appreciate you checking out this video. If you would like more thoughts on tech gadgets or whatever, drop a like, subscribe, leave a comment, all that stuff so I know what kind of videos to keep making, and I will see you on the next one.